This week, we'll discuss the value proposition of free in video games, so drop me a line down below with your comments, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. Back in 2002, RuneScape was one of the most notable, if not quite the first, free-to-play video game. I'm aware that the free model goes back a bit further with the heavy demos and shareware, but for games that included optional microtransactions, RuneScape was one of the first big ones. They had ads, paid subscriptions which enabled features not available to free users, and eventually, in 2012, microtransactions. The advent of the smartphone is what took free-to-play into a new realm. These people were used to 99-cent songs, and their buying patterns reflected a low valuation of individual apps and media on those phones. Quite simply, they didn't feel like paying normal rates for video games, and as a result, we have enormous companies like King with Candy Crush and others making bank that puts many traditional developers to shame. The problem with a game that is free, however, is that companies can't really act as charities for very long and keep any shareholders happy, so they started to develop the games in a unique way, using all of the tried and true marketing tactics of the last century of consumerism. They relied on customer impatience, Pavlovian psychological triggers, preying on youth too naive to realize what is going on, jealousy of others, and all manner of cynical marketing tricks in order to squeeze money from the whales to make their profits. Now, for those who keep tabs on other YouTubers, I know that Jim Sterling did a video on this recently, and he covered the idea of microtransactions always affecting games in a negative way. I don't want to just repeat a bunch of what he said, so we'll go in a different direction to attack the core of the value proposition and gamers' defense instead, because frankly, his video is great, and I'll drop a link to it in the description so you can check it out if you haven't already. Often when criticizing microtransactions and free-to-play elements in full retail price titles, you will be met with an odd argument. The contrarians will state that they are no big deal. They'll state that they're fair, inoffensive, reasonable, innocuous. And you know, in a game that is truly free with no upfront cost, I get the idea that companies need to make some kind of money. Hearthstone is a good example. It's a great game, and I want Blizzard to be successful because I enjoy their game. So I treat these microtransactions as fair, and I play accordingly. But do you know what you'll never hear? That the microtransactions are good, that they give me, the contrarian, a feature that I otherwise wouldn't have. You'll never hear anyone state that they wish a game had microtransactions. In game development, balance and pacing are incredibly important, and the only thing that you may run into are areas that you wish you could skip, or that took too long, but never once will it cross your mind that you wish you could pay to skip them. Rather, you'll be upset, or maybe just mildly inconvenienced, in such a way as to wonder why the dev didn't just pace the game properly. Here is the value proposition of microtransactions. You pay money. They allow you to artificially advance your game progress, in essence, skipping gameplay. And of course, the only reason that this value proposition has any semblance of value is because the gameplay needs to be bad in order for it to work. Whatever element that must be skipped also needs to be just tedious enough that players wish the developer had paced the game properly. That is why I always feel like I've run my face square into a brick wall when I criticize this kind of move that, for example, Metal Gear Solid 5 has in the forward operating base optional content. My critique is met consistently by defenders of the title stating that the microtransactions are fair, innocuous, inoffensive, unobtrusive, reasonable. This is called the fallacy of relative privation, the concept of arguing that someone else's view is not worth being concerned with. You'll note that the debate in this way isn't actually arguing for the benefit of microtransactions at all, which is why it's a poor point to make. What we're left with is that very unfortunate value proposition. At least when the product is free, one can say that they understand why microtransactions exist, if usually abusive, and we can debate individual titles on their own merit. With a AAA retail purchase, however, what we have is an artificial problem created by the developer. They have designed a section of the game with the intent of tedium in order to monetize that artificial problem by way of psychological trickery. And that is not a value proposition at all. They quite literally have provided you, the gamer, a solution to a problem of their own creation. And for the same reason the console wars worked, a bunch of people are unwilling to accept the idea that we can love a company's products and also be critical of their business practices. Where do you see microtransactions going in the future? Let me know down below. Feature Creep is a weekly editorial in the game industry, so if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button and let's debate aspects of our passion. That's all I have to say. Tarmack out.